Hi everyone, it's me, Twilla, and I'm sitting in my sunny kitchen, and it's that time of year on the prairies where I'm really starting to think about seeding and what I want to grow next year, and I know that many of you are in the same boat. For myself, I always have those things that are sure things that I know I can rely on. I know the seeds are going to come up and it's going to be great, but I feel like every year I also have a few things that are a bit of a gamble. And I have a couple things that I'm gonna pot up today, and I'm really excited to try them, but they're a bit of a long shot, and it's probably a couple of seasons before I see the fruits of my labor. So what I'm talking about is Clematis, or Clematis, depending on what side of the pond you're on. So Clematis, I've grown it from a plant from a greenhouse, and it hasn't worked for me, but I have grown two different varieties from seed, so somehow I've gotten lucky that way. One of them is a native plant called, the variety is Manchurica. It's a white frothy flower, and the other one is, it's from the family called Viorna. It starts with a V, Viorna, I think is the Latin for it. And it's really beautiful. I don't have a photo, so we'll all just have to wait to see what comes up in the spring on the plant I currently have, but it's a little bell like about this long, and then the edges curl up. So it's a long bell with a curled up little edge, and it's so beautiful. I got my first bloom last year, and that one flower made seeds for me, which are right here. So I've decided I'm going to give them a try. I'm going to try to grow a few more. And then these seeds, these clematis seeds, came from Bob's garden. So for those of you that are watching Twila and Jillian, you might recall, I think it was the first video of the three, Bob gave Jillian and I some clematis seed from this alpine kind of bush habit growing clematis. And so this is seed from that. So the challenge with clematis, and I did a little bit of research about it, is do you need to cold stratify the seed or not? So does the seed need to go to a cold temperature below 0 before it will germinate? And it kind of depends, I think, on the species of clematis. I did find a really sort of very sciencey article that went through it, and I'll put that into the comments, a link to that in the comments. But essentially, what I'm gathering is that a lot of clematis will germinate without a cold period, but some of them do better when they get that cold period, and they won't necessarily germinate while they're in the cold. It's like they'll come out of the cold, and then there's a better sort of percentage of germination that happens. So I'm going to try. I don't love cold stratification. I don't know why. It just really intimidates me. So I'm going to try a couple of different ways of doing it. I'm going to use the paper towel method for these guys, the Viorna, and I'm going to use peat pots. And I'm going to use, I got a little kit here from a big box store. So it just comes with this pellet, and then this lid, this dome that goes on top, just like so. And I'm going to divide this. The thing with cold stratification is not only does the seed need it, but how long does it go in for? So I'm going to do like maybe a 4-week on one side of this. I'll put tape and I'll say these ones I'm leaving in for 4 weeks. And then I'll maybe say 6 or 8 weeks on this side, or maybe even 3 months. I don't know. I have to decide my 2 different times. And hopefully we'll get 1 or 2 to catch, and it'll be a tiny little thing for a few seasons, and then maybe eventually some flowers. So let's get started. So these are the little peat pellets that I just showed you. And what I did was I just filled them with water up to about here. And then it took about 10 minutes, and then they become very waterlogged. You pour out the excess water. I like to peel back this little mesh. And I also get in there with a chopstick and I fluff up this seed starting mix. I feel like it's very compacted in there, and what I like is for it to be nice and light and fluffy, because those little seeds, right, their roots are not going to be very big when they start, so you don't want to have too much resistance, and they do just need to be able to flow freely and not be like waterlogged or smothered. So nice fluffy little mix inside of these pellets, just so that should they germinate, they can really start with really nice roots. Okay, That's great. So these are the beautiful, beautiful seeds that I got from Bob. And what I love about them is that they all have this little thing on the end of it. Like if I pull up this mass of them, you can see that fuzzy little bit. That's called the tail. And apparently it doesn't matter if you leave the tail attached or not. So I'm just going to leave it because I don't want to fuss with the seed. But you can see how wonderfully adapted these are. Like this is going to get carried by the wind from the seed head. Perhaps it's going to stick to an animal. So I like to see what nature's design was for this kind of thing. So here we go. I've got quite a bit of seed from that handful that I got, which is marvelous. And so I think what I'll do is I'll probably put 2 per peat pod. So I'm just dividing them. Oh, that's quite the, maybe the tails do come off. Well, if they do, they do. I'll just kind of put them on the soil and tap them down. I'm not going to worry about covering them up per se, because I don't know if this seed requires light to germinate. So yeah, it looks like I'm doing 3. 3 is the magic number. So there's one. I'm going to say, look at them. The seeds look a lot like a pepper seed, interestingly enough. Not that I think there's any relation between the two, but I'm getting these lovely feathery little seed pods right here. So there we go, 2 per thing. And you know, I'm going to meter these out. I've been giving this thought as I've been working, and I think I'm going to go 6 weeks and 2 months. No, I'm going to go 4 weeks and 2 months. That's my 2 time periods. And so I'll label these accordingly, and we'll see how they're doing. Because I'm not expecting them to sprout. When I pull them out of the fridge and check them, I'm not expecting to see that germination has happened. I'm expecting that to happen once they come out. All that to say, I won't know if that's the right amount of time when it first comes out of the fridge. And then yeah, if these do sprout, once they you know, they get past that original little leaf that comes up, that little one that does this. All the seeds do that. That's called the cotyledon or cotyledon. I'm not sure about the stresses again of the Latin science-ness, but then they start to make true leaves. And so once it has true leaves and it looks healthy, boy, I'm being optimistic, thinking it's all going to work out. Then I would put it in a pot, and I would make sure maybe that the plant is a little deeper, the roots. So a little more soil on top of where the seed is. Okay, that's there. Almost done. These beautiful seeds of Bob's. And the great thing about this is, I can see already I'm going to have seed left over. So I'll wait a little bit, maybe another week or 2. And then I'm also going to try some that aren't cold stratified. I'll just plant them and I'll just germinate them in my little mini greenhouse, hopefully germinate them. Again, me with the optimistic language. And hopefully we get some success, because I sure would love to, you know, see that beautiful clematis growing in my garden and just remind me of being in Bob's garden, right? You go to gardens that are amazing, that inspire you, and when you can take a bit of that back to your own space, it's so good. Okay, so these ones are done. I'll put a label. I like to use green tape and a marker, and I'm just gonna write Bob Clematis, the date it went in the fridge, and then the date I wanna take it out. And I'm gonna just put these 6 at one of the time periods and the other 6 at the other. So one thing that with cold stratification that I have in the past found quite confusing is, does that mean put it in the freezer or put it in the fridge? And for me, I think it's fridge. I'm like 80%, 90% sure it means put it in the fridge, not the freezer. The freezer is too cold. So that's what I'm doing. And I think earlier in this video, I said in the freezer or below 0, and it's actually not that. It's just colder. Colder is what we want it to do. Okay, there we go. See, When you're not clear on something, it's hard to speak clear about it. But that's what it means to me. That is what cold stratification means to me. Now, these are my little Viorna Clematis, and I'm going to use a different technique for this one. So there's a paper towel method that people use to start seeds and in the fridge, and it's really, really simple. So you just take a paper towel. This is one sheet that's folded in half, and you get it wet, squeeze it, because you want it to be moist, but you don't want it soggy. That's the magic thing, because if you get it too wet, then the seeds will rot. That's no fun. Nobody wants rotten seeds. So yeah, I can't really squeeze any more water out of this, so I think that's good. And then what I'm gonna do is I'll put it in a Ziploc bag like this. And for now, the Ziploc bag is gonna be my workspace. So here we go. I don't have a ton of these seeds. Again, a gorgeous little seed head with those feathery, feathery bits. Look at that. Oh, so nice. And again, I only had one flower and it went to all the trouble of making me some seeds. So we're gonna see what we can do. I am gonna put this here. Yeah, just leaving the tails. Hopefully that's not a mistake. Look at them, they look like little creatures. There we go. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so I've still got, I could add another couple more on there, and then same thing. I might save these ones and then try those just in regular, like non-cold stratification and see how we do. The nice thing about using the paper towel method is you can really see when seed is viable, it soaks up the water and it starts to look plump and very like it has a lot of vitality to it. So at least I'll be able to check and see if the seed is viable. So now that I've got these ones laid out, I'm just going to fold this across just like that. Tap it and then very carefully slide it into this bag. And I don't seal the bag right up. I think that, not that a ton of air is going to flow, but I don't want it airtight. Airtight, it makes me nervous. So in it goes. That's my Vorna. And the nice way of doing it this way is it doesn't take up much room in your fridge. So there we go. And I'll just do these ones. I'll just go 4 weeks on this one. And then I'll label it with this green tape again. So there we have it. We've seeded some clematis. Hopefully it catches. And maybe in 3 or 4 years from now, I'll be making another video going, hey guys, remember when we sat in my kitchen and potted up some seeds, and share some blooms with you. But this is the time of dreaming. This is the time of thinking about something you want to try. So go for it. I say go for it. Have fun. Things are starting to percolate, and it's always a real fun time of year, this dreaming period. So thanks for joining me today. I hope that you're all having a good time planning your gardens, and happy gardening, everyone. See you soon.